Connor said he would join if you joined, and now we're sitting here. Oh, here he is. Is that him? There we go.
Hey, if he's too chicken, it's understandable. I have that effect.
He's here. He's here. Hello, Connor.
Hello.
Hi.
Heidi ho.
How are you fine folk this evening?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm well. So yeah, I was just kind of enjoying
good.
Matt, fake food shops or whatever was telling us to get in. So I was
that
like,
was raw food shops. That was raw food shops.
Oh,
coming on.
Cool. So no idea who the fuck this guy is, but as long as he ran a car dealership, I guess I'll take him seriously.
Streamy, you don't have to take anyone seriously.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm here. I'm here to answer the charges. There's a lot of, there's a lot of serious
F-Bombs runs a car dealership. What?
Used to, I guess. Oh. Yeah, so I mean, I guess if we're going to talk about it anyway, so my perspective hasn't really changed this entire time. Basically, people should be disclosing their financial relationships. They should be disclosing their incentives. They should be honest about what they're trying to do. But I think that there are a lot of leftoids who are they like being crabs in a bucket. They like slicing each other's legs off as soon as somebody's about to crawl out of the bucket. And so I would be curious what any of the critics have done for the upcoming election to see if there's anything that they have done that's positive that is worth replicating or worth considering. But I very much doubt it.
Are you asking me or are you asking F-Bombs?
This is more of a statement.
Oh, I see. I mean, I don't really have a problem with PV. I just think the online networking is sort of not well thought out. I think a couple people involved are kind of unbearable, but other than that, I don't really have an issue with it. If you want to be on to debate about PV, you're going to be a little disappointed. I'm not that hostile to it.
Well, I can kind of just pick at some of my questions or concerns or criticisms of you, but just since they are watching the PV thing anyways, I figured we could address that first. So with the PV stuff, Kuihman, I don't know if you want to take up the devil's advocate position or whatever, but literally for me it's just fucking disclosure, and all the people who are critics, I have no idea what the fuck that they've done for the upcoming election that's worth consideration.
Well, yeah, I mean, for me, it was always disclosure. And then I think it's funny to take jabs at it being ineffective and stuff, but ultimately, I don't really give a fuck whether it's effective or not. I'm not invested in it failing. I'm not sitting there thinking, God, I just hope they get as few doors knocked on as possible, as few registered voters as possible. I'm not sitting there thinking that. I'm just sort of like, oh, it's kind of funny to poke it, especially if you're going to go, well, we knocked on 40,000 doors. What have they done? It's like, well, how many registered voters did you get, though? If you're going to come in with the numbers.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I think as far as that's concerned, that's annoying and everything. I think the only thing is, as soon as you're, using your canvassing efforts or whatever as like a sign of your political experience or something like that, it's not like it's a thing you're using for clout or to puff up your own involvement or whatever. I just think people trying to act like this is some kind of selfless act is a little bit obnoxious. But I don't. That is again, I have no issue with. Yeah.
This is all true.
Even on the disclosure thing, if I may very quickly, I only think that's really a problem if you're talking about people who are plugging a specific political message. Rezi and what's his face Beckett, they were on Wick's ass for being slow to disclose that he was being paid for this. But as far as I'm aware, I don't think he was pushing a specific line or whatever that was sort of downstream from that. I just don't really care what the level we're talking about.
And I'm kind of curious for your guys. So Kuihman, the reason why I'm in your chat sometimes, the reason why I actually consume a decent amount of your pre-recorded content, the same reason why I'm in Chud Logic's chat and I consume a decent amount of his pre-recorded content is because the truth is that I think we've all kind of realized that a healthy chunk of this space is drama, right? Even if you look at Destiny and all of his content and stuff, we dress it up in the fancy intellectualism of political debate, but ultimately we care more about the relationships and how they're built and how they fall apart. So embracing that kind of nihilist black pill of it's all drama, you and Chud unapologetically go for drama, and therefore it actually ends up being the most entertaining. Any objections to those statements?
No, you're just glazing me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're here because you like to laugh at weird gay people.
I mean, you're not wrong. So There. Okay, but then let's talk about like politics, right? Because allegedly there was this thing called like Twitch and YouTube politics where people who were concerned with political shit would talk about political shit, ideally, hopefully to have some kind of long-term or short-term effect, if even if small, right? And so when we're talking about politics, correct me if I'm wrong, but particularly in a democracy, it's about clout, basically. It's about gaining as much influence as possible and as much power as possible in order to wield that to affect change that is in line with your ideology. So, Sunday, objection?
Do you win plebiscites by being popular? I 100% agree.
Okay, good. Then, but is that how you should be conducting politics? Do you have an objection to pursuing that end?
No.
Okay.
What are you asking specifically? Or do I have an objection to engaging in a political system that awards the victory to the most popular party? Do I believe in engaging in populist politics under those conditions? Of course I do.
Okay. Then yeah, then I'm still like not you because you're not this other fucking guy or whatever, but like I'm kind of failing to see the fucking beef where it's like, well, you're trying to get clout and money and time and attention and power in order to affect results, and it's like, yeah, no fucking shit. Like that's the whole point.
I think the issue is more if you say pretending the motivator, the true motivator is the change and not the clout. I think is what Sunday's saying, is that it's obvious that these people, you know, the average streamer that's getting involved in PV are not more motivated by change than clout. Change is just sort of like the way they dress up for their attempts to get clout. And if that has a positive effect, then sure, they probably believe in it, but that's not why they're doing these things. They're doing these things because they're a streamer and they want to build their career.
Yeah. I mean that doesn't particularly matter. Every single person who is doing politics on a screen, right, is getting something out of it for themselves. Nobody here is like a martyr or whatever. My only issue with PV is I think the logic of bringing specifically Twitch poll, YouTube poll type streamers together into the same room, especially ones that are already supporting PV, it kind of defeats the purpose. It kind of creates internal frictions. It doesn't really cause any real outreach because it's all more or less the same audience to begin with. I would wager that the networking contribution to the turnout for PV is probably pretty negligible, and most of it's just Destiny. Which power to it.
I agree. I agree. However, I'm hoping, obviously, when you're creating a project from scratch, you have to go with a little bit of hope. I'm hoping that this could be something long term, and this is kind of like the prototype stages of it. So, for instance, I think we all see, or at least I see cable television and mainstream news and even politicians becoming more internet brained. Like Donald Trump is famous for his shit posting on True Social and Twitter. When you look at Piers Morgan now, Piers Morgan is basically running fucking Twitch panels on his show right now. He literally had Hassan Piker and a few other randos screaming at each other for a few hours. So when I see this convergence of the internet political debate sphere and mainstream influence, which again, Destiny is probably the biggest bridge. For me, I'm like, well, it's going to go here anyways, and somebody's going to figure out how to utilize it first. And I think PV is almost early to the game. Now, maybe they're making mistakes because they're early to the game, but I think their instincts are correct.
Well, I think insofar as it's dependent on these other large figures who are already established in order to be even minimally efficacious. Sorry, I'm so goddamn tired. I can't even speak. I'm not sure being first to the game is necessarily the advantage that you think it is. I think really all it amounts to is, so people realize that certain streamers can, pull a decent chunk of people to go do some like mid-level canvassing somewhere. Okay, so they'll just do that. I don't think that's going to be PV. Once again, like I think PV is basically just Destiny's canvassing efforts as per usual, just commensurate with his recent growth. Which again, like I've got no particular issue with it. I do think, however, one of the potential downsides to the way in which it's been done this time is because it has involved so much directionally oriented infighting leftward, rather than bringing on people from like sort of like Voshsphere or whatever and like really you know, getting those two crowds together to sort of maximize your output. I think what it's kind of done is it's broken a lot of people's it's damaged morale around the possibility of concerted effort in favor of the Democrats. That this is before, of course, like all the Palestine stuff ramped this up to 1,000. So I think that what would have been a lot smarter is if you're going to go that route, reach out to communities that are not
Will should
already
delete
politically
himself.
active. Like,
he can't be redeemed.
Fuck getting Vosh on. Screw getting like the Keffels and all those people involved with like Destiny of all people. That's just going to fuck with their audiences. Get like
thank you, Doobie.
Get
Thank
like a
you.
Markiplier.
That's a bit much, though. Calm it down.
Or somebody like half that size. Get someone like that. If you can get someone like that involved, that's big. If you can get like somebody cool who has an audience that's generally not already politically involved, anybody you pull from there is fresh. That's actually a gain. I'm not sure that that's really the case for 90% of the people involved in this right now. I don't think there's anything particularly wrong with it. I just think the like the vid constant and everything, I think that was all doomed to fail. And I think these are the kinds of streamers in particular who are the most likely to embarrass you in the long run.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think that whenever you get a series of like young people who are ideologically minded together, you're going to run the risk of doing embarrassing shit. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. But I want to address a few things that you said. So PV is Destiny with some window dressing. I think that when you're talking about actual people who were recruited in order to go to the canvassing event, I would not be surprised if 80 to 90% of them showed up because they were affiliated with DGG. Would not be surprised at all. However, at least one of them, I had a conversation with while I was on the ground there. He basically said like, hey, I kind of like Destiny. I engage with his content, but realistically, I wasn't going to come unless there was like other people there. So he actually came to meet like
a self-aware DGGer.
Yeah, well, so he came to meet like Irrelevant and like the Orbiter crew because the Destiny alone was not enough for him to show up, but the combined group was. So that's at least one other person where having other people. Now, whether or not that's efficacious is a different argument. But reaching communities.
Well, you're canvassing numbers mean efficacy, right? More or less.
Which ones?
Oh, just if you bring more people, like just all else being equal, like more
sure,
people.
But if you're paying for room and board for 10 streamers and then you add in 2 people, obviously that's not a great return on investment. And I can only speak to the one person.
Not sure what you're talking about, but we'll run with that.
I know everybody else is tired, so I'll try to make it a little bit more clear. If 280 people would have come and you only needed Destiny to get 280 people, and then adding 10 streamers.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Flights
you're
and
paying
hotels
for the streamers. Yeah.
Yeah, then you're paying like a few $100s per extra body added. That's not an effective use of money, right? So, so I can say that it exists, but how much it impacts, I don't know.
Well, like there were streamers going who had like sub 10,000 sub like viewers or whatever. These are people who are like basically nothing. Who are being
well, yeah, and I mean, I don't
understand the logic there.
I would consider myself among that, especially on the political side. Like my Warhammer channel is doing well, but my politics stuff is very small.
Yeah, but I mean, since your Warhammer stuff is doing well, just hypothetically, I don't know if you've done this, but you could technically have the opportunity to use your larger channel to boost that. If you're not boosting that, then yeah, you're basically operating at Wix scale. But if you're using that, like that would be the advantage of networking, is you can get people who already have these massive organs that they can use to pull other people in. If you're not utilizing that, then it's just like, yeah, I thought you'd laugh at that. If you're not utilizing that, then what's the point? Like you're not utilizing your organs. Paying for you're paying for.
I got it 20 seconds later, but I got it. Yeah. So actually, I guess the thing that we can dig into then, because I'm not going to push back on it too hard, because there's not going to be enough for us to just.
There's Lonerbox. Lonerbox is like sizable. Sorry.
And by the way, he's a great dude, and he was having a great time mingling. But so you said that it created lefty infighting, and it was actually exacerbating the problem of like lefty spheres working together towards the shared cause. So could you expand on that?
The particular people who were involved, right up to the level of the organizers, are extremely abrasive and acidic people who can't keep their mouths shut and just can't stop attacking the people they're supposedly trying to bring together.
She's not an organizer anymore. She's not an organizer anymore, Sunday. Okay.
Yeah, but there's I venture to guess though that there is a reason for that.
Obviously. Type A personality was what Connor said, wasn't it?
That
very
is what
type
I
A domineering personality.
Were we talking about?
We're talking. Oh, Pixie, obviously.
Yeah, Pixie. Yeah, she's just a fucking nightmare.
Oh, hold on. So, is Brianna the only example, or are there other examples? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, I mean, in Brianna's
and
shadow,
did Brianna?
Well, you've got a guy who you would describe
progressive 6 months ago.
There's a guy you would describe as a pedophile currently, like fronting a lot of these operations. No.
Listen, it's lower D.
What?
Wait, who are you talking about?
Bosh.
Before I agreed to that.
Bosh.
Oh,
Right.
Bosh.
Okay.
Excuse me, Kuihman.
Yeah.
It's a phebophile.
Yeah.
That's very true. That's very true.
They were post-pubescent. Okay, they were post-pubescent cartoon drawing. Hold on. I thought we were on the Kuihman channel, so we had to be very specific with our language. Where pedophiles were people who had primary attractions to children.
Yeah,
I thought we had to be super specific.
That's why I said as you would describe as.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call Bosh a pedophile. Me personally, I wouldn't. Say
well,
that,
actually,
but...
you know what? Now that I know that the cartoons are post-pubescent, I'd be willing to negotiate on a phebophile.
I'll let food shops know there's a way out.
Yeah. If her lolicon drawings are all post-pubescent,
here's a question.
She's a phebophile.
Okay, would you describe people canvassing for DGG right now? Would you say they're fighting for democracy?
I hate that question.
They're fighting for democracy.
Yes.
Yeah. You would describe. Okay, so would you describe young Brianna Wu as fighting for segregation?
Why? What did young Brianna Wu do?
She interned for Trent Lott's campaign.
And is Trent Lott like a
segregationist?
Segregationist.
Yeah.
Trent Lott is a Republican who had to step down due to his support for a segregationist.
Wait, so hold on. Are we doing guilt by association, or are we doing his policy?
What he said. What was the quote from Trent Lott again? He said something to the effect of, "If we had elected this guy, America wouldn't be in the fucking state it's in now."
Nice. Okay, and then I'm assuming he's referencing probably the 1960s person who was like,
"Yes,
segregation now, segregation forever,"
correct.
Or whatever that quote was.
This was. I think this was at a memorial for him.
For him, as a memorial, his birthday service or some shit like that. Yeah.
Wait. Hold on. So you have me in a trap here where I have to admit that a young Brianna Wu was working.
That was the line of question.
But I want to ask: does this not make her more based for your audience? Like, does that not make Brianna Wu?
I just think it's. I would just like to hear you say, Brianna Wu was fighting for segregation as a young.
I don't think I can say that exact sentence for clip purposes.
I don't. Okay. I don't think she was fighting for segregation. I think she absolutely was. Doing work to help the campaign of someone who absolutely would fight for segregation if that was on the table.
Yeah,
but that's a different thing. Brianna Wu acknowledges that this took place. This isn't like a big secret. The only thing that's weird right now is she's trying to weasel around and say she only did it because it was the only job opportunity. And what's a child of multimillionaires to do?
Yeah,
exactly.
No, I agree with her though. There's a job opportunity. You can work for a Republican. You can get into politics. Why not pad your resume? Why not get in there and start mixing it up?
When I went to college, I worked a day job, and I didn't like try to do clerical work for the Klan or something. It's not really how I roll.
If you didn't read that message, that's too much.
Would you be further along in your career?
I would. If I did get further along in my career, I would then possibly at some point in the distant future have to answer for why I did work for the Klan.
Right.
But
you can just say, I was young and I was based and I was trying to appeal to the Kuihman demographic.
Well, if Wu was based, as you say, maybe that's the angle she would have taken. Unfortunately, her strategy has been to deny that her intentions were anything else than just, she just had no choice. It was the only thing available.
It's Mississippi, okay? There's
segregationist
Democrats.
There were Democrats in office in Mississippi.
But the Democrats were also segregationists, though.
In the late 90s.
What?
I mean, probably. Okay, so the reason why I'm kind of joking, but like Mississippi and Louisiana are
Real
famous
Smith
for
super
being
chatted
like a few decades behind
$1.99.
on the
Say woo 3 times on a
reform,
stream. It summons the demon.
That explains a lot.
Yeah. So like Louisiana, I think, has one of the highest incarcerated black populations on the planet. So, which is not Mississippi, but it's.
But you want to know what's really funny though. So this
Food
is
Shop super chatted $10. It's me. I am the Kuihman demographic. I am transgender. Also,
during her congressional run, she had an ad talking about how one of her motivations for trying to get into Congress was that she grew up seeing the effects of racism and inequality and poverty in the people around her where she grew up. So naturally, of course, this being like her primary influence, she immediately went to canvass and work for the segregationists. I find that a little
like she saw it. She was working for a guy who was trying to make it worse, so she saw it. Like, where's the lie?
No, I'm not going to argue with you. I mean, like, this is she did say she was ashamed that the Republican Party was a mockery of itself or something like that. Like guys.
Well, yeah. That's actually
you're not being serious here. Obviously, there are people of different ethnicities sharing the washrooms. Like, what the hell? Like,
well, I kind of wish she was here for this because I think she would like to get into it a little bit. But I guess that's.
I don't think she's ever going to talk to me again, and I don't resent that one bit.
Oh, well, then I guess that kind of begs the question a little bit. So the political goals, like I see fairly straightforward from my perspective. I think in terms of like systems where there's a goal that PV has that I think is good, which is let's get basement dwelling Twitch poll people out into the real world, canvassing, trying to register people to vote.
I'm gonna say that back to you, okay? But I'm gonna say that back to you okay. You want to get people who are like antisocial, greasy fanboys of Destiny into an environment with strange women going canvassing and possibly like doing activities. You can see why this is like.
Well, there was only like.
Is this the best idea?
Are we talking about fellow canvassers, or are we talking about members of the public?
All I'm saying is that there literally had to be a thing on the Destiny Reddit talking about
we need to deal with
we need to deal with these freaks not being able to be in the same room as a woman without trying to be Destiny with anyone but his wife.
I cannot believe I have to defend the greasy basement dwelling people between the three of us, but I'm going to. Okay.
Oh.
Listen. I love Twitch poll. I love YouTube poll. It's my home. All the schizophrenics here are my favorite kind of schizophrenic. However, I do think it needs to be remarked that a lot of people here are socially fucking weird. That's part of what adds to the spice of the space and the chat and all that kind of shit, right? So I think it's admirable to try to get those people out into the real world. But the truth is that if you have 300 guys and you have 8 women and they're all passionately interested about politics, and this is the first woman that they've seen besides their mom and their sisters, and they believe they have a shared common interest, they will probably at some time walk up to them and say, hey, do you like politics? I like politics too. Do you like Destiny? I like Destiny a lot. Do you want to go get a beer after this? And then what'll happen is more than one of them will do that to the point that it eventually becomes uncomfortable.
They'll walk away, and the next one in line will do the exact same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, like, we're joking, but yeah, in a way, kind of. Like, I'm sure that there was a socially awkward guy. Yeah, so there was a socially awkward guy who asked the girl out. She said, no, I'm busy. I'm working on the event. I'm busy with this. Please don't, hit on me. We're here for a purpose. And then another guy shot his shot, and it didn't work out.
I think, if I may, the advantage of PV is precisely that it is not directly affiliated with the streamers it's involved with, and so it is this boring gray thing that people get involved with because their favorite streamer is, but it is itself something separate. So when people attend these things, they don't have the expectation that the social rules are akin to whatever the social rules are in like the chat rooms or whatever of the streamers involved. one of the mistakes I think they made by overlapping with DGG so much, it's that part. But leaving that aside, the other part is, now all of these people who are coming to this thing, they are they're showing up with the expectation that the people that we are meeting are representatives of these different groups or whatever. And so you have immediately like a whole bunch of like all of the little Twitch poll dramas and whatnot. That's now going there. If people watch their favorite streamers now like shaking hands with people that they've been telling people for months, like, yeah, this guy wants us all dead or whatever. This guy's like a total psycho. This person like lied about my wife, etc., etc. Like, it's going to make both of them look incredibly two-faced to their own audiences and to each other's audiences and so on and so forth. You're going to like rob it of whatever potential benefit it already had by making the thing now sort of inherently partisan. If the goal is to network, it needs to be something that's sort of operating from a third position outside that's set apart. I think I think trying to like make this the big streamers thing was probably the worst thing for that, because it lost its distinctiveness as like a separate organization that didn't have to carry the baggage of these people.
I want to address this twofold. So first, you mentioned that one of PV's advantages is the fact that they could operate as like a paraprofessional organization that's already involved in politics, and therefore they don't have all the baggage of the streamer space. I agree, and I think they might have more capacity than is being presented to the public. And as a result, they have like they don't have streamer. They have canvassing houses. So part of the fundraising and part of the thing that's going on is they are setting up in swing states. I don't know how much of this like I'm supposed to say or not supposed to say or whatever, so I'm just going to give it to you the way that it was told to me, is they have a few volunteers who they are not stopping. They basically get a per diem. They live in that state for the time. They are canvassing on weekends, but they're also setting up the logistics infrastructure to do events before we get a large event to happen in their state. And then what happens is we use the streamers or whatever in order to bring an audience to them. So instead of operating with whatever local power they can get in the 3 to 5 people who are living there and doing the work all the time, they can get a few hundred. So if they had a bandwidth capacity that they couldn't handle on their own, they can use 300 volunteers to take on that capacity. So I think that is admirable, cool, logistically dope. And also on top of that, I would like to hear what the former car salesman guy has to say about that logistics capacity. So that's point one.
He doesn't know what that is. He's nuts.
Okay. Point two. You're saying that we're bringing in all the previous dramas, and that itself can be a turnoff, and it can be the two-faced.
Well, how about let's just to fixate on this a little bit. How many of like the biggest names that are associated with PV now have like a really strong, like loud outward stance on like the Israel-Palestine thing? Now, maybe you think that's fine in general, but it seems to me like if your goal is to maximize the amount of people who are voting Democrat, the last thing you want to do is to make it so that if people are getting involved in this organization to canvass for the Dems, they think that they are tacitly signing on to an organization that has a firm stance on this that they disagree with. It seems to me like what you'd want to do, absolutely.
So who do you think is currently with PV that is being outspoken on Israel-Palestine?
Who's currently? Well, I mean, Brano was gone. I don't know about your position. Is Destiny still signed on with PV, or is he like separate, or what's his deal?
So okay, so
they've got the DGG logo on it. Okay, he's de facto signed up as far as anybody looking at it.
Right, and so for me, I would be borderline surprised if he was taking a salary from PV. That would be weird to me because it's like he's already a millionaire. He's interested in this stuff.
I'm going to be real with you. I don't give a shit about that. I don't care about who gets paid. What I'm concerned about it is if there is the outward perception that this organization has like a de facto firm.
It's a Zionist organization.
Not even necessarily a Zionist. Like, I don't even have a problem with people like that being involved. Like, to be clear, I don't actually have a problem with Destiny having a pro-Israel position. The issue I have with Destiny is how he got to it and how he's argued it, which is an entirely separate thing.
But isn't the spice what kind of like brings people in, I guess? Like, if we're going to tolerate Vash's eccentricities, can we not tolerate Destiny's eccentricities?
If you're of the perspective as an ongoing genocide, then it probably doesn't. I don't think the spice quite lands. Like, it'd be like saying,
wait, hold on. Say that again.
If you're of the perspective,
you think it's a genocide, it doesn't really land.
If you think it's an ongoing genocide, like that's going to deter an audience from wanting to get involved in this organization. But let's flip that around a bit. Let's go on the Vash angle. I think Vash is a liability too. Like, why on earth would you want, like, you want the guy who said, like, we should glass Israel or whatever? You want that person involved in this? Like, leaving aside
this is why I'm so happy.
Thing.
Like, I'm not. Yeah, this is why I'm so happy I'm not at the upper echelons, because I think I would just have heartburn like a motherfucker. Yeah, but at the same time, so let's say that we're the head of PV temporarily. Okay. Vash says he wants to glass Israel, and on top of that, 13-year-old Japanese cartoon drawings, playing with horses is okay. And then you got Destiny over here, who's like, it's not a genocide. Everybody
agrees on the horse thing, by the way. But continue.
What Destiny does?
Yeah.
So let's say Destiny, he pretends that he doesn't like the lolicon stuff, but he openly does in other aspects, and then also
he doesn't like it. He's just okay with it. Just to be clear,
he's okay.
I've heard claims
okay
that he did once link a hentai doujin that had a curiously aged succubus, but I haven't actually looked into that fully myself.
We all can picture it happening, even if that didn't specifically happen, right? All right, so you fire,
like he begs for little feety pics and whatnot. That's right.
Okay, so you fire Destiny, you fire Vash. Now what?
Well, why would you fire them? As far as I'm aware, Vash was already plugging PV. You just get Destiny to help plug PV. You don't need them to be involved officially, right? That's the whole advantage, is you can go to these different people. If one of them fucks up, that's fine, because they aren't PV. They aren't the face of PV or like publicly associated with PV. They're just telling people, hey, we think politics is really important. I'm going to go help out this organization. Come and join me. That's perfectly cool. They do this.
How is that different from what they're doing now?
Because you've got DGG on the signpost saying what they're going to do. All of the people who are showing up to these events are showing up as part of the Destiny crew. The person who was picking out the people that they're going to pay was picking them based on her particular friend group and whether or not they would, like, help get her more and more associations with Vash and Destiny.
If you're saying that right now it's heavily lib progressive and there's an underrepresentation of left progressive, and therefore like left progressive might feel jilted in a way and therefore not as willing to participate, then yeah, like I think that's,
well, that's true.
Out.
That's true, but that's not exactly what I'm saying. I'm not talking about like the actual demographic makeup of like PV volunteers. What I'm talking about is even before you get to that point, because of how intertwined PV has decided to be this term with like online politics, having people explicitly associated with it, going on to like podcasts and shows and whatnot, and making this like having the whole DGG over PV thing, I think was kind of a mistake that way. Just because of that, that's giving the impression before you've done anything that the attitudes and opinions of the organization are reflective of these particular figures, because of course they are, because they're going on stream and they're doing it. I think the people who are running this thing would have been really smart to be really neutral, like Brianna Wu, for example. Power.
I feel like I feel like the other people besides Brianna have been pretty neutral, but I interrupted. Please.
Well, I think this Sam guy was. Pixie certainly hasn't. Even people I like in there, like Aaron and Lycan.
I haven't seen what Pixie has done.
Even people I like in it, like Aaron and Lycan have absolutely taken like hard stances on things. I think the only person there who's really acted in the way I would like to see someone who's running this type of organization to act would be Josiah.
Well, okay, so this is interesting to me. So if I could describe it from my perspective, just meeting with these people or whatever. So Aaron and Lycan are not stereotypical libs or going with like the lib pro Zionist talking points. They actually do fight, push back in meeting and also outside kind of being more like nuanced and subtle, particularly when it comes to Israel-Palestine. And then I would also say that you brought up Pixie. I'm unaware of her specific, like, I'm in DGG tribe, thing. I haven't seen that necessarily.
Kind of is, but that's beside the point.
Well, and then Josiah, he does his own thing. As far as I can tell, he literally picks like 3 or 4 news stories per day. Then he breaks them down in like 10 to 15 minute segments, and he just posts his content and he just does his thing. And then just happens to be with PV. I would also say that's kind of the way that he conducts himself in meetings, where he's
and I think that's the ideal.
Yeah. But are you saying, so I'm trying to poke at what you're saying. So are you saying that the DGG, VGG tribalism has infected the perception of the organization to the point that it's toxic? And to what degree, in which way?
I think there's just a perception that it is itself infected by DGG tribalism. I don't even know if I would say that's necessarily the case. Obviously, there are people in it, and I mentioned Lycan and Aaron as examples of people who absolutely are not infected by that tribalism. Now, it's a little bit complicated, of course, because Lycan is Destiny's employee. But leaving that aside, it's like, somebody looking in at this, like let's say you're in Vosh's audience, you've got a very strong attitude on, let's say, non-traditional gender roles or the Israel-Palestine conflict and whatnot, and you look at this organization and who's at the head of it, who are the biggest faces. When you look up PV, who's talking? Sam Guy, who says nothing. There's going to be Brianna Wu up till very recently. You're going to have Pix, you're going to have you, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to have Destiny, and it's like Wick for some reason. Like, you're looking at this, and you're like, okay, hang on. So you want me to go marching door to door with a bunch of people who, as far as I'm concerned, don't acknowledge the validity of a whole bunch of people I'm really close with and possibly a political advocate for, and are also like cool with thousands of people getting bombed in a Middle Eastern country. Like, I'm not particularly down with that. That right there is going to cut a massive wedge into the amount of people who are willing to come in. If it stayed neutral, if it kept like an arm's length between the different creators who were involved with it, and ended up being this hub that actually was capable of channeling the audiences of multiple creators of, like, different persuasions, generally like dem sympathetic, progressive, but of like, there's a lot of variety in there. If it was able to do that, I think it would be a lot more effective. You'd be probably pulling the same numbers on DGG side either way, because you'd still have Destiny's involvement. But then you'd actually get like the unresentful involvement of other people as well. I think keeping them separate was kind of critical to all of this. I think where you want to like have endorsements by large figures is when you're dealing with actually large figures with fresh audiences. I think one of the major problems with having these successful streamers involved, like bringing Destiny and Vosh into the same room. I mean, here's a question. How much of a new audience do you suppose you get by combining Destiny and Vosh's audience? Because by my reckoning, they're mostly the same. Like,
okay, so my earnest answer to that question. So I think that they actually did. So I'm not sure like how much logistics I'm supposed to be putting out there, but like there's infrastructure all over the place. So I don't think I'm telling any state secrets right now. New York and New Jersey were going to be focal points for PV and the election, and there was a more liberal candidate and there's a more progressive candidate who we were looking at helping basically with a canvassing operation. The liberal candidate, if I remember correctly, their opponent conceded before the election, so that's already won. That's done. So DGG's need to be there to support a liberal is reduced. We can focus that energy someplace else. The progressive person is still going. So the VGG, as I understand it, is going to be largely focused on that. Now, of course, we're not going to turn anybody away, right? If there's like a crossover fan who is only kind of fans of Vosh, but still wants to see him in a room, then obviously he should still go to the event. I think that if you have a VGG standalone event, if Vosh was passionate and if his orbiters were passionate and his logistics people were passionate, you could probably get 300 people, similar to the way that Destiny has. But I think that if you had a combined event with Destiny and Vosh, even if you said they're not even going to talk to each other, they're just going to be on opposite sides of the room, I think you could probably break 500 easy. Just for the potential of social interaction between those two characters.
I mean, that's a hypothesis.
Well, I mean, I know I would be more excited to go.
Well, I think if that was the plan, then maybe it would have behooved people not to, spend all that energy.
The plan. I think they're thinking the way that you're thinking, where they're trying to keep peace enough so this thing doesn't explode. I think.
Okay, well, if that is indeed the priority, though, then the last thing you would do is try to arrange additional events leading up to it before you get to the canvassing. Like the VidCon thing, I think was a big mistake.
I think you were trying. I think that was an attempt to build the bridge, though. I think that was an attempt to reconcile. It just wasn't successful.
I think that's a mistake, because you can't build a bridge like that unless someone's actually giving up something pretty significant, and neither party was willing to. It was just like, hey, we're going to pretend to be friendly even though we hate each other. We've actively tried to harm each other's careers and each other's loved ones, etc.
Well, listen, Keffels apologized, and now DGG and Keffels are tight. So
yeah, which accomplished, by the way, demonstrating to a lot of people just what a disingenuous pile of shit Keffels is. But it didn't actually really accomplish much for PV ultimately.
Y'all got no fucking loyalty. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of laughing, but like, this is Kuihman. I've said this shit before. Part of the reason why I do watch Kuihman is because he has no fucking loyalty to anyone. So like, if some shit is not the way that he perceives it, then he's like, yeah, fuck that motherfucker. And that's how he says it. Yeah, for me, I wouldn't view it as a lack of character. But I guess other people perceive it differently.
I would. Like, what were they saying about each other leading up to this?
What was the principled? Yeah, I guess what was the principle that was broached by Keffel saying like, "Hey, sorry that I claimed to take $250,000 of your income 2 years ago or a year and a half ago."
Well, on both sides, maybe this was explained in a way that it didn't seem to bother Destiny's audience, but like what I saw was Destiny now being at least on the surface level, buddy with someone who he had just gone after for going after his wife, for taking a bunch of money, for lying to people, for accusing him of raping someone, for accusing ChudLogic of being a pedophile, and so on and so forth. Like a whole bunch of like really heinous stuff. On Keffel's end, she was telling people for the longest time that this person, stuff of that magnitude, let's say.
Yeah, he's a rapist. He wants people to die. He validates, he enables fascists.
Sure. So what did either party do to signal to the other one and to their audience that, hey, this person has reformed? Because if they didn't, then the only justification is that this is a business move, in which case it's intrinsically disingenuous, and it's transparently so. Everybody can see that.
Yeah, my question is, so this is where I feel like the audience is being a little bit naive. So let's say, I don't think Keffels is heavily involved in PV, but let's say that she was, and let's say that she came out and made a 10-minute video and she said, hey, listen, Destiny's an asshole. He's still a lib and a capitalist. And I think he has fucked up perspectives on trans shit. And I think he has fucked up perspectives on Israel-Palestine. And ABC XYZ, this is why I think he's an asshole. However, I do think...
I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to stop you right there. I know what the spiel is going to be, but I want you to think about what you've just done in this case. So now you have Destiny's audience and Destiny himself associating with an organization that is paying someone or is associated with someone who is saying, this person's an asshole, this person is X, Y, and Z, all these bad things. He's not going to like that. His audience isn't going to like that. But if she wasn't affiliate, if she wasn't, what is that going to do? Well, it's going to mean it's going to hurt people's enthusiasm for flying out to do.
Help. Yeah, so I'll finish the however, and then you can object to it.
It's got to be a good, hopefully, however, though, right?
Well, it's probably not going to be sufficient for your ends, but at least we can demonstrate the point. So, however, I think that there is a demonstrable value. Yeah, it literally.
However,
I know you guys laugh about that.
So I know that I made my name off of Drop Kiwi Farms, and Destiny floated the idea of bankrolling them out of pure spite, and then spoke to Noel on a stream moderated by Turkey Tom and promoted his website.
2 years ago.
But
that was 2 years
it's
ago.
An election year. It's not 2 years ago. Keffels did irreparable damage to the foundations of a free and open internet. A point that Destiny fought very strong on at the time, and they were both. It's an election. That's not enough. These are fundamental disagreements. Destiny has his entire career is founded on, you know, him making his own website to try and prevent censorship and all this sort of shit. His whole thing has been free and open internet for 10, 15 years, but then it's an election year. So even though Keffels tried to destroy my life, threatened to destroy my wife's life, and fuck it, like all this terrible shit, it's an election year. That's insane. No one should accept that. No one should accept that.
Okay, hold on. We can make this a little spicy then.
Something about the English accent. I can't deliver it that way. Sorry, continue.
So now we're gonna get into territory that your audience won't like, but at least we can have some contention and some spice. So there's a demonstrable difference between the two presidential candidates that we're looking at that will affect and probably like kill or not kill thousands of people, minimum, if not tens of thousands of people. So one could argue it's doing so already. Yeah. So, well, and that's actually like a really interesting point because like, is it damage done or is there a demonstrable difference? I'm one of the people who thinks that there is a demonstrable difference about who wields power in the next year. And even if I can only get 2,
I think 5, so too.
10 people to vote, then I would still want to contribute to that.
I think so too. But the problem that you're up against is not that it is factually the case that the Republicans are worse than the Dems here. What you're up against is you need to convince people who are not politically engaged of that. You need to convince people who are half politically engaged to throw all of their chips into the basket of the Dems who are doing X, Y, and Z, all of these radically evil things from their perspective, that, you know, like make maybe radical gambits more and more appropriate.
But who is more numerically superior in the electorate? So for instance, like I can concede to you instantaneously that the progressive and left wing is more vocal online and is probably less represented in the enthusiastic voter bloc for Joe Biden, right? I can concede that instantaneously. But when it comes to the people who are actually out there whose doors you're going to be knocking on, I would say most of them are normies who are probably more aligned with normie Democrats. So what demographic should you pursue more aggressively? The online lefties or the normie moderates?
Well, when they're canvassing, it doesn't particularly matter. All you're trying to do is maximize the amount of people who are walking around with the program, just reciting the thing as they go door to door, right? Yeah. So I don't think that part matters. In terms of like what we're talking about right now is how do you leverage the respective audiences of people involved? And if you're trying to maximize the turnout, it seems what you want is as little infighting in the organization between those groups as possible. You want to be able to just use their positive energy. That's what you want. If you have people
compared to, just real quick, compared to how Vosh and Destiny could be towards each other, how vicious they could be towards each other, do you think that they have been particularly vicious in the past few months?
I don't think it matters. I don't know why you would. I don't know why you would want people who are vicious towards each other in that way at all.
Work with
to be
different
directly
orgs,
associated with the organization. Well, yeah.
Like,
I mean, hell, have a PV East, PV West, or whatever. I don't know.
Literally, it's like that. Why are you intermingling these people who have fundamental
Capulets and Montagues?
Exactly.
Like, like these people should want to kill each other, frankly.
Listen, I'm a centrist, so I'm always trying to bring people together who fucking hate each other. But okay,
the centrists lose out in that story, by the way.
Well, I'm sure they do.
Maximal amount of deaths actually on that side, but continue.
I want to die principled. So so here's the thing. I thought that there could be, and by the way, like I'm not high up in the organization or whatever, but I thought there could be like a playful competition between these communities. Like I thought that VGG could try to push for as many canvassers as possible, try to knock as many doors as possible. You could track the numbers, you could have independent events, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe you could set up some, like if they get on more friendly terms, you could set up like a
You thought you'd just get some friendly competition between the communists and the phalangists?
Literally. Like so. Okay. Listen, we're trying to prevent the return. Were the phalangists pro-monarchy or were they fascist? What were they?
Yes.
They were pro-monarchy and fascism?
Yeah, more or less, yeah.
What was there a third party? Are we talking about Spain right now?
They're just go with pro-monarchy. They're pro-monarchy.
Okay, yes, anyways, I'm trying to say that we're trying to prevent a third worst thing, okay? A secret third worst thing. So we're trying to get two people to work together who hate each other. Yes.
Okay, but if I may, I think the third worst thing would be that as a consequence of all of these people having these spectacular feuds in public in association with the organization that's meant to get as many boots on the ground as possible to start going door to door, if as a consequence of that, and you'll never know this because we only have the final turnout, but if as a consequence of that, maybe a few hundred less people turn up than would have otherwise, or if your efficacy next election is radically diminished because PV suffers reputational harm from all of this, that would be the worst possible outcome really available to you, which is you've just taken like this political capital that might have actually done some good and you've kind of squandered it.
I get the concerns, I get the criticism, and also on top of that, I think that it is dangerous waters. I do think at some point that you just have to get in and start fucking paddling in the shit slewest water, and you just make the best judgment calls you can. And
but ideally you're not.
I'm not the highest up person.
But like 1 minute, Connor. Surely you should be against any involvement of Keffals at all with this organization, because surely, I mean, Woo as well. To be honest, Keffals represents all the worst things about the left, the online left, the progressive left. All the shit you guys moan about
Canada,
all the time.
Worst things about Canada.
Worst things about Canada. All the cancelling, all the deplatforming, all the terrible shit you guys moan about all the time. She represents the absolute worst of it. And you're like, yeah, let's legitimize her for like very minimal benefit as she falls off by getting her involved in our org. Why?
Hold on. So number one, I'm not that high up. I'm not making those decisions. Number two, for me,
sure, you're defending the
equation.
Position.
Okay, the equation for me is I don't give a flying fuck about y'all's streamer drama. It's fun, but it's
this isn't streamer drama. This is she goes and tries to ruin other people's livelihoods in ways that you guys very often speak out about. You like Brianna Wu will be on a Wick panel every week saying, I've seen you definitely complain about it, but Brianna Wu will be on a Wick panel every week saying, the thing with the online left is they just can't come together. It's all about cancelling, and it's all about tearing people down. Keffals' whole name is built off of ratioing and getting people banned.
Sure. Wait, so do I have to specifically defend Keffals, or do I have to you
have defended the position of legitimizing Keffals by bringing her into this org, even though she's giving minimal benefit. You're saying it's not actually any benefit is worth it.
I would be doing... Sorry. Well, I was just saying I would be doing math on it, right? So let's say that Keffals is still producing horrible content, doing all the horrible things that you just mentioned. And then let's say that bringing her to an event is only going to add 2 or 3 canvassers to the event. Obviously, that's not worth it. But let's say in a hypothetical scenario, she's adding 100 or 150. For me, the online shit is almost like doesn't fucking matter compared to getting people on the ground who will actually have an electoral impact. Using
where do you stop that? How bad does someone have to do? What is the line that you draw? How bad does someone have to fuck up before they're not worth working with?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask about this, but I'll tell you why. In my world, just former military, former law enforcement, former military, like, we interacted with institutions that literally kidnapped mentally disabled people, put bombs on them, walked them into civilian markets, and then detonated them, killing a few dozen people. So that's like my bar for what human evil is.
So you're like, fuck it, Amos Yee, canvassing, go for it.
Well, how many people can Amos Yee bring in? Like, I'm joking. I'm fucking joking, but like... So no to Amos Yee.
Look. Here's the thing.
If he can bring in a few thousand canvassers, then maybe we'll see.
Okay, but we can simplify this though, right? So fundamentally,
how many canvassers can food shops bring in?
But what you're trying to do by incorporating these streamers is to advertise PV. Okay, but if what you are advertising with PV is affiliation with particular parties in a particular way that makes other parties not want to get involved, or to be hostile to people who get involved, then that seems to be doing the opposite of what you're trying to do.
I agree with you. I just have a realist calculation that I want you guys to consider. Destiny.
I think I'm using a realist calculation here. Well, I'm not being like wishy-washy or whatever. Like, what I'm saying here is like quite literally from a cold brass tacks level. I think that the the thing that Progressive Victory is purposed to do is hindered by the strategy it's adopted here. I'm not even talking about like what I think about the morality of the people involved.
You can explain the more specific like objection to the strategy in a second, just so I can get into it. But I want to give you an example that I hope gives y'all more to think about. Destiny, by all accounts, should be impossible to work with. Okay. If we want to look, literally, if you want to walk through the Mr. Girl article and go through every one of his sins for the past decade, if you even want to look at a year and a half ago or a year ago, some of his personal dramas and personal perspectives and spicier conversations, he should be untouchable. He should be radioactive. But the reason why he's not radioactive is because he has tens of thousands of fans, hundreds of thousands of subscribers. He can get human beings, hundreds of human beings, to show up to one place at one time in order to work towards a shared goal. And as a result, there is value and there is power and there is money in that. And so all of his sins are not forgiven.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought.
It's a calculation of cost and benefit. I'm holding the thought.
Okay, I get you. Now here's my retort to that.
Okay.
If the vast majority, let's say, as you suggested, 80 to 90% of the people are from DGG in the first place, or they're for Destiny,
right?
How would you actually know that he isn't, in fact, toxic and unworkable in that way? And you that is hidden from you because you're just looking at the people who show up and just kind of assuming that's the best you could have done. But what if what's actually coming out from this is that PV is kind of superfluous and Destiny could just do this by himself?
He can, in a way, but then this is where I think that there's a value add here that is demonstrable. So DGG did do a canvassing event. And I think y'all will remember the drama where Destiny basically paid a few $1,000s to some guy who was supposed to run and coordinate everything and do hotels and food and all that kind of crap.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and he basically found out that this guy did nothing and delegated all of the responsibilities to other people, right? And then those other people either kind of did it or half did it. It was a mess. They did their best with what they had, and I'm sure they, succeeded in some regards, but I'm sure it was a mess in a lot of ways too. PV actually does have a healthy chunk of back-end people, not streamers, who are like former organizers, canvassers, et cetera, et cetera. Sam, I forget his handle. I don't want to say his handle incorrectly. I think it's like 10 something, but I don't want to say it incorrectly. Sam actually does have canvassing experience where he's run groups. He knows how to educate people on how to canvass. He knows how to talk to people. He knows how to do logistics. He knows how to drive. He knows how to set up equipment. He knows how to do this. He knows how to do that. And there's a half dozen to a dozen Sams that are with PV. So PV is kind of like the filter or the logistics hub or whatever, where you take the unprocessed meat of DGG, you throw it through this filter, and you actually get a viable, delectable product. So if you want to say we don't need the filter, we can just brute force this. You can. You're just not going to get as effective. I
get what you're saying, but what actually we've seen happen is somebody who raised her profile by associating with people in DG specifically was able to buy her way into a position of prominence in the organization, started paying off all of her friends largely from within DGG to start filling up their positions. And then basically what you had, we're talking about Brianna. Yeah. Like why is Wick being paid by PV? Why was Wick being paid by PV? There's only one reason. It's because Brianna liked him. Why was, why, like a lot of these people, like why were any of these people involved? They were small fry. They don't pull like people to this thing. And so what you have is like, yeah, it could be a filter if it wasn't already co-opted by people who are already outwardly invested in putting their own face forward as like the face of the organization, of the project or whatever, and who are already like directly affiliated with people who are taking these very strong positions on these extremely contentious public issues. Like gender identity stuff, like Palestine stuff, et cetera, et cetera. Like I think if this stuff had been kept, if PV had been kept like firmly separate and independent of these people, it could act as that filter. That's kind of the benefit of that. Otherwise, like why not just like fold into DGG and just be like DGG's permanent canvassing, crew or whatever? Because it seems like that's
because they have bigger ambitions than that.
Well, if they have bigger ambitions, well, if they have bigger ambitions than that, then they've potentially like poisoned their careers going forward because now they're attached to all the stuff these other people have done. No,
I don't think so. No,
you
reason,
Connor, you have Pixie in a room on camera, chilling around with Chud Logic, who's talking about deporting the blacks. You don't think that's going to come back to haunt anybody?
He was
Did
on
Pixie
a PV,
agree?
Well, he was on a PV live stream screaming like, what was it? If you deported all the blacks, there'd be no crime or some shit like that. And blacks are kind of retarded and other great statements. And that was on the official PV live stream.
He didn't say kind of. He didn't say kind of.
Well, yeah.
Well, to my knowledge, Chud isn't a part of PV. Although I would happily.
Well, slow down. Well, hang on. But Kyla and Pixie absolutely are. And you had them going, say something racist, Chud, in the video that was published to their channel.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong.
It's a weird thing
the
for
devil
PV
incarnate, but it's
a bit.
These are bad decisions. No, but content is something for like unprofessional shitheads like me to
I would have never. Yeah, I would have never considered that good enough content to post. Absolutely not.
Well, it was a live stream.
I would have
clipped that segment. Was it? I think it was a live stream. It was just left up for like.
I would have clipped that
for
segment.
a long time. Even Chud was confused why it was still up after like a few months.
Well, I think that was I think that's a logistics thing where they had to figure out the editing team and all that kind of stuff.
Well, they hired people that Brianna Wu liked who didn't produce anything for the longest time. So
listen, I can only defend my own work. I'm
not asking you to defend Brianna Wu. I'm just saying, like, this is an organization that was fundamentally vulnerable to be co-opted by the first person who came by with a few $100s to throw around. Like, it's kind of nuts.
I think so. In Sam's defense and in the organization's defense, I think that they have succeeded in some ways that might not be visible to the public. I think they have gotten fundraising sources that are outside.
But isn't that a failure if the purpose is to promote PV? If its successes are invisible,
the money is being deployed. Not if the money is being absolutely not. Not every action of a political organization to achieve a political end has to be public.
You cannot. You cannot
make yourself vulnerable.
You cannot convince me that the money is being deployed well when you're paying Wick to have like streams between like Smith and people.
I don't.
Oh yeah, that you had that stupid fucking tweet, didn't you? Where you were saying people should pay attention to Wick. Oh my god!
Listen,
Connor.
People are
even at you. I'm surprised.
Listen, people are being more centrist, and I am deeply enjoying it. Okay, so listen, if we had all listened to Wick, the country would have been better off. So, hold up. So, I don't know how much Wick is being paid. Do you know how much Wick is being paid?
The fact that he's being paid, if he was being paid like $20 a month, that'd be embarrassing, bluntly.
Y'all are the biggest fucking haters I've ever seen.
Well, I'm gonna just this is a case in point though, and this is one of the reasons why paying like small streamers is also like a waste of funds, sort of intrinsically. If you look at Wick's channel, like presumably they're being paid to produce content that is supportive of progressive values and whatnot. But when you look at Wick's channel, the last video that he actually put up was a debate with Aaron on the Israel-Palestine thing. He was taking the pro-Israel stance, obviously, or the pro-IDF or whatever stance on that. And that's the last edited video he has in months and months and months and months since he started getting paid. Why? Because now all of a sudden he's freed from having to produce. This now suddenly becomes not actually a motive to produce more for PV. It becomes, oh, nice. I don't need to play the game like other small streamers. I can just sit pretty and, chill out. Like that. That's what it became.
Is he? So, for instance, like if I go to Wick right now, because I'm a dear friend, love him a lot. Think you should all listen to him.
No, I don't listen to I'm a dear friend.
So 1 month, 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 12 days, 11 days, 10 days, 9 days.
It has been 5 months since his last
5
piece of
days,
edited
4
content.
days, 3D. And if he's a live streamer,
well, let me read some of these out to you, okay? Warhammer 40K goes woke. Diversity, equity, and inclusion destroying America. Stop setting yourselves on fire. Men therapy cannibalism. Wick and Smith talking about becoming Max. Does leftism make women go crazy? Is this helping PV?
helping me.
300 views, 500 views, 700 views. Like, this is a dead channel.
Okay, so let's
Kuihman's doing better than Wick. Kuihman's not getting paid by PV.
Yeah, but Kuihman is also
he's currently right now
the hustle.
As a consequence of this stream right now, arguably he's doing more advertisement for PV than Wick has done in half a year.
Okay. With respect to the hustle, Kuihman finds the most delectable schizophrenics on the internet and watches them. And that is very entertaining. He also has a British accent, and he can shit talk people for hours. So that is, it's drama content. It's not gonna, change anything. But I see why it's algorithmically popular.
But it's not. Why he's getting less than He's getting less than. He hasn't broken 1,000 views in like 2 weeks.
I'm talking about Kuihman.
Oh, Kuihman.
Yeah,
but Kuihman's doing the same kind of thing as Wick. He's just doing it well.
Successful.
Yeah,
but
the thing is,
Wick used to frame his debates around like drama topics that were currently relevant.
Could Wick could he just start react Andying to schizophrenics? And
no, but the point is that he used to indulge more in sort of like framing a topic around a drama thing, but having a conversation about it. Where like if the Vosh Lolly stuff had popped off before PV, I'm sure there would have been a huge panel with Chud on.
Or been 8-person panel.
8-person panel, or everyone's arguing about Lolly. Instead, Chud got the panel because, I mean, no one wants to go on a fucking Wick stream anymore. But back then, you would have had like the dog dick panel. Like, think about the dog dick panel, right? That was a great
classic
panel. Now that one had no real. There's probably no real political issue that's being spoken.
5,000 views, 1,000 likes. 2-hour watch time out of a 4-hour VOD.
But regardless, the point is that Wick has become complacent and self-serious, and is focusing entirely on sitting there and having these dry conversations and grandstanding about Israel non-stop. It's like it's just off-putting to an audience, and they're paying him for what to have.
So let's say that PV says Brianna liked Wick. He's a nice guy. He helped us do logistics and all sorts of nice stuff at the previous event. He's active during meetings. He talks to other creators, and he facilitates panels that other creators who are in PV and not in PV go on.
Well, I mean, credit where it's due. And apparently, he's the only one of the lot of you who had the sense to go, hey, Vosh just showed a bunch of underage porn on his stream. Maybe we should rethink this, guys. I think he's the only one who actually
valuable right there.
That.
Yeah, maybe he's maybe that's
or maybe just investments across the board are just that bad.
Okay. The point being that if they value a service, and let's say it's $50 or $100 or $200 or whatever it is, right? And they're willing to continue to pay that bill, I'm not gonna hate on the way that they deploy their investments.
I'm not gonna either. But if we're talking about what PV's, we're talking about like if what PV's doing is efficacious.
But
we do a good strategy.
We come back
just very quickly. Like if we're going to say that, and we're like squandering, if we're throwing away money on people who aren't just unproductive but are actively embarrassing or hostile towards other members of PV and are creating that toxic atmosphere, that hostile atmosphere rather, to like the kinds of people you want to bring in, which Wick absolutely does. That's not a good move. Like, yeah, sure, they're allowed to spend their money as they will, but
they also give the creators like a healthy chunk of latitude, which I think everyone in all of our respective audiences would demand, which is like, you don't just become a sock puppet of PV and just say what is exclusively good for PV.
Great, but then I ask you, given that they're already going to do that anyways, and given the fact that clearly this money doesn't incentivize them to produce more content, why are you paying them at all? Just let them do what they're doing and say, hey, if you want to show up to Canvas, we'll mention in our tweet when we advertise it, hey, look, these are the streamers who are showing up, but don't pay them. Don't make them officially affiliated.
Let's do this. Let's have some fun. So Wick seems to be the commentary Kuihman, Chud Logic, President Sunday whipping boy. So let's try some other people. So Erudite. Should Erudite be getting paid?
Should Erudite be getting paid? It depends on what she's doing. She's more or less taken a backseat to streaming lately, and she's been doing purely logistic stuff. I don't have a problem with that. If she's doing that, that's fine.
If
I think that's some of the stuff she's
on the back end, and also can book, relatively speaking, like large shows.
To be clear, just in addition to this, I think having people who are associated with like the administration of PV going on to like the whatever podcast and making embarrassing statements there, I think that's a mistake too. Same reason.
Erudite has like substitute teacher, receptionist energy. I'm sure she's competent, but Wick is what is Wick doing for this organization?
Look, at the very least,
I really love Israel in the meetings.
At the very least, at the sure, but very quickly. But very quickly, at the very least, like with Erudite, she pulls numbers. She's integrated with larger streamers. She's capable of performing. This is established. I don't understand what.
Let's actually like start. Let's start writing down numbers. So we got Wick. You guys do not think that Wick is worth it, but we have Erudite.
Well, to be clear, by the way, Josiah was very small at one point very recently too. I would not have a problem, for example, with them paying Josiah. Why? Because he demonstrates professionality. Okay. He knows how to manage himself. The problem is that people like Wick, for example, even Erudite, although once again we have the numbers to. There's some justification there is why I'm less harsh on Erudite than I am with Wick. The only reason why some of these people are involved is because they gave free access to Woo to appear on stream. Bluntly, like there's no other reason. And given that,
let's go through the list.
Okay.
So you have Erudite. You're okay with Erudite being an employee. You said Josiah. I'm assuming everybody's good with Josiah.
I think Erudite's a mistake. I think, to be clear, all of these people, with the exception of Josiah, maybe Dylan Burns, I think most of them are a mistake.
Dylan Burns. Okay, hold on. So then let's not work it. Let's work it two ways. Yeah. One, let's at the end of this, let's say President Sunday is the king of PV. Let's do that as a hypothetical. But then two, let's say that you can at least see that these people are justifiable as contractors, whatever, creators, whatever. Okay. So so we said Erudite. All right. So Josiah. Is Pixie being able to go on whatever podcast, being able to go on Fresh and Fit, being able to go on whatever, not whatever, but like another like MRA Red Pill podcast, is that, and then doing administration work as well, is that of value? Is that a defensible expenditure?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so I'll put Pixie down as.
Why do you suppose that would be? Just out of curiosity.
Well, if she's doing similar administrative work to, well, why would be getting access to whatever podcast and all those bigger podcasts?
Well, I just struggle to see. Are we so desperate for personnel who want to like receive a paycheck for doing this that we couldn't, for example, get people to do the back end work on this organization that, for example, aren't embarrassing streamers? You know.
You need to qualify that because you've said it twice. So what embarrassing thing happened on the whatever podcast? Enlighten me.
It's the whatever podcast. Just by itself, it's sort of intrinsically embarrassing.
I need something more specific.
Oh, I'll give you an example. Like someone I have like appreciation for. Like I consider Straight Raid Aaron to be a friend. I have a high degree of regard for her. But I wouldn't want people who are representing my organization, for example, to be like the punching bag on like a Red Pill podcast on the regular. I wouldn't want to be associated with people. Was it Erin or
Farha who did the thing with the graph where she couldn't read a bell curve?
I don't know. I don't follow it that much.
There was one of them that did that with Michael Knowles, and there was a bunch of clips of it.
I hope it's Farha. So okay. So could you perceive a potential value to going into right-wing spaces and fighting for a progressive standpoint?
Sure. By all means. But I'm not going to put
access. So they're the people we got. So deal with it.
Well, hang on. Wait. What do you mean the people who have access? You don't need to have the people administrating PV going into Red Pill podcasts. Their job is to administrate and organize canvassing.
I'm saying that this is their part of their value. So, for instance, like I'll just be very transparent with why I brought up Pixie doing administration. One, I like Pixie. I think she's done good work. She helped organize a lot of the events. She did a lot of the back end logistics stuff for Cincinnati that I saw.
Could nobody else have done that?
I'm sure somebody else could.
Like they're getting paid for it, right?
And
like so you don't think there aren't like hundreds of people who would be lining up to take that job for pay to do that? If we're just handing it out to people who Brianna Wu likes because she wants to be friends with like internet streamers, that doesn't seem very wise.
Brianna's gone.
Yeah, but Brianna still picked out the vast majority of these people. Yeah. Did Brianna pick Pixie? Did Brianna pick Wick?
Don't know, but the timeline was.
I don't think you picked Wick.
What? I like Wick.
And we know Brianna Wu came to you and said, "You know, Connor, we're really looking for." We're looking for Burkean conservatives.
I mean, the elephant in the room, of course. The elephant in the room, of course, Connor, is that you're involved.
Yeah.
So.
Well, listen, we can get into that. So hold on.
I mean, no offense, but you and I had a conversation one time where you said you wouldn't date a black woman because you take her relationship with her father to be suspect as a consequence of her being black.
You kept repeating
let's assume you're look. I'm
joking.
I'll give you that. Let's say you're joking, okay? I don't fucking believe you, but let's say we're joking. Let's say you're joking. So that doesn't matter to anybody else who's watching this and is offended even at the joke. And these are the people you're trying to bring in to do the canvassing.
Right? Well, to be fair, that's whatever value I do offer, that's not my value.
This is a great one. What about Hunter Avalon? What's he bringing to the table?
Okay.
Bullets.
Okay. I'm going to be defensive of Hunter, okay? Hunter, let's face it, his narrative is very interesting. He had a very hot channel being an anti-SJW for 5 years. He had, 500,000 subs, something like that. He was raking in the fucking money. He goes progressive. Obviously people argue whether or not that's a good thing. He takes it, and I would say he takes a huge hit based off of what I would not take that hit.
Neither would he.
I would probably walk away.
I'm sorry.
Sunday.
I shouldn't joke about that.
No,
nothing.
I need to know. Yeah, are you going to get yourself in trouble? Should I stop affiliating with you because you're making an edgy joke?
He was just making a joke about Hunter always getting shot. It's
Jesus Christ.
Technically, I was making a joke about his girlfriend.
Listen, I'm the person who did the racist, I'm not going to date a black girl because she has a bad relationship with her father joke, and I'm the least edgy between the three of us.
You want somebody who's streaming to debate people after his girlfriend's ex-boyfriend shoots up their apartment, shoots her, and shoots himself. You want that kind of person representing your organization.
He's making rap music about ADHD.
Are we blaming him for that? What are we doing?
He's doing rap music now? What?
Wait, I bullied him out of it.
You didn't see
stopped
it?
uploading when I started talking about it, but yeah.
So hold on.
By the by, PV should not hire me for similar reasons.
So right. So hold on. I want to get to a serious point because I think you could have serious criticisms of Hunter, but I don't think this is one of them.
I think it is.
He's the victim of dating violence where he was almost murdered and therefore
no.
He's
not. It's not that he's a victim of being shot at. It's that he went on stream to start debating people about it while his girlfriend's still in the hospital. Like literally, I think the day of. Was it the day after the day? It was crazy.
We all do crazy things with our trauma responses.
He was goading the guy before he tried to shoot him as well, though, wasn't he? Because he was asking the guy to come on and debate him about abusive relationships weeks before this guy showed up to try and shoot him and shot his girlfriend in the Yeah.
Okay, but to be fair, I don't think most of us would expect that to be the escalation. Like, it's stupid, but
I was about to say, I'm looking for something disqualifying from a progressive perspective, not a whether or not.
But you already don't think there's anything. Sorry, you don't think there's anything disqualifying from a progressive perspective because you think you should be able to get conservatives on board. So you don't think there's anything disqualifying.
No, I don't think I think I'll get maybe moderates.
I asked you where the line was, and you were sitting there toying around with Amos Yee. What? There is no disqualification.
I mean, hey. I mean, you laugh. That would pull it. That would you get eyes definitely.
Okay, hold on. Now I feel like I have to explain jokes. So
no, but you haven't actually given us where the line is, and it seems like someone like Keffels falls outside of the view of most people's fundamental beliefs.
No, there's a joke with a serious undercurrent of it. The joke of Amos Yee is obviously he's somebody who rhetorically defended pedophilia for a few years on the internet, and then I think he was caught with actual CSAM material, and I think he's arrested and in jail or prison, right?
DIY HRT isn't bad
synonyms.
enough. No.
What's that?
DIY HRT isn't bad enough for your perspective on this.
You're asking me to defend the individual, whereas I'm trying to appeal to a theoretical of pragmatism of how many
because
people
you're only
because it's knock crazy on doors
that you're only
how
calculus for this.
Are you?
It's that there's always going to be a calculus. You can literally molest kids, and as long as you think they'll get enough people knocking on doors, it'll be worth it.
Look, it's really
no, but you're saying there's a calculation with Amos Yee. You're saying there's a calculation with Amos Yee.
Okay, okay. Look, so let's say, okay, hold on. I'll do the inoptical thing because you're asking me to bite a fucking bullet or whatever. Let's say that there was like an election that I thought was existential to the planet. Which, by the way, this isn't the election that I would bend this principle for. But I could get 365 million Americans to vote the exact way that I want them to vote. Yeah. If I have Jeffrey Dahmer, the serial killer, and by the way, who was the handsome one? Who's the one who killed all the sorority girls?
It was Jeffrey Dahmer, wasn't it?
It was Jeffrey Dahmer? Okay.
I think so.
If I brought Jeffrey Dahmer to a canvassing event, I could get 100%. Bundy. Okay. Jeffrey Dahmer, he ate people, I think, right? So let's say I could get Jeffrey Dahmer and Ted Bundy to show up to a canvassing event, and I will get 100% of the vote for an existential election. Yeah, probably.
But here's the problem, though. Like, if. So what you're saying is, if getting Adolf Hitler involved with PV would magically make it so that the Democrats won the election in a landslide, then we should do it. And I would, begrudgingly agree. The problem, though, is that that's precisely what I'm contesting, is that that's going to be as effective as you think it will be. I, for one, don't think Adolf Hitler running with PV is going to.
Is your point.
I think that'd be a little bit in the domain of the counterproductive, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
One could say that.
So yeah, but I'm not defending Keffels, the person, and all of their behavior. I'm defending the hypothetical in which you ask me, would you permit her to be a part of the organization or think it was a good idea if she was a part of the organization if there was a certain amount of draw that she had to canvassing operations? And the answer is yes.
But if she has a certain amount of draw to canvassing operations and involving her in that formal way does something to hinder her draw or the draw of somebody else you also want to get involved, then your contribution by involving here is purely negative. You just lowered the total amount of draw that was already available to you.
Sure. The thing that's interesting, though, about exactly what you just said is that I think that there are probably only 2 players that can get a few hundred people in any state in the United States. I think that's Vosh, and I think that's Destiny. I think everybody else is complementary, but they're not drawing in that many people.
So picture this. Okay?
Sure.
So Vosh and Destiny plug PV. And PV in turn says, hey, if you guys show up, we'll give you the papers, we'll give you the training, we may even give you like a little kiosk.
Are they showing up to the events? Because them going to the events is the draw for a lot of people coming.
On their dime. This is a thing that they do for their own image. This is like when Vosh does a 24-hour like charity stream or whatever. He's not a saint. He's doing this because it boosts his profile. It's good for his image. That's why they're getting involved in this. So that's why Destiny spends thousands of dollars. So picture this.
Rant. I'm going to listen to your rant. I just want to frame it.
I wasn't rant. I just said one more sentence, but continue.
I'm going to ask you for a rant. I'm going to frame this as if President Sunday was in charge of PV, what is his game plan? Already. You're already kind of telling us that. So please finish the idea.
Well, say, hey, we'll facilitate this. You plug us. We're all on the same side here. And then what's really cool is they can show up. They can help pay for their little orbiters to show up, or they can show up if they want to like boost their profile because it's already in their interest to do so. Like PV's not paying them enough where it's not a massive inconvenience to fly out and do this if they're flying out or if they're traveling any distance. And then what you can do, because you don't have any of the baggage of any of these people actually attached to you, is you can then spend your energy trying to get other people from outside. You can try to get like, hey, look, Markiplier, we've got this little thing. Can you give us a short little boost here? And like whatever. And maybe you can get more people involved. They aren't all beefing with each other. It's just this nice positive event. We're gonna make a difference, folks. Gonna be a bunch of people showing up from all over the world, over the streaming place, whatever. And that'd be awesome. That could potentially be very effective. And I don't think you'd be seeing lower numbers from that because you're already seeing numbers that are basically what we'd expect to see if Destiny was doing this by himself.
Okay. So yeah,
maybe less for all we know. It's possible that people got tired out and unenthused about this because of all the stuff leading up to it. We don't know. We have no way to. We have no way to tell.
Drama drags people in, but I could be incorrect. So hold on. So if my summary of your argument is that PV should stay a cleaner and safer distance away from streamers. That would be their smarter move. That they should focus on the 2 streamers who can bring in the most amount of numbers that they know, but still stay far enough away that their shit doesn't splash back onto PV's boots. And then they should have a wing of PV that is solely dedicated to trying to recruit larger creators or larger YouTubers or larger media figures to participate in the events. Then
and having like weekly meetings with like Wick, I don't think is worth the money. I think that's both a waste of your time and it hurts your image. No, I'm just using Wick as an example. Like I think like getting people like this involved.
Mean to that man. So
I mean, he still doesn't have his tooth, by the way. Like you guys need to pay him more if you're paying him at all. Come on.
Listen, I don't touch any of that shit. All right, I talk for me. Either. Y'all are so rude. So so I agree with you that I think that would be effective and clean. Okay. We are now in, well, and I'm not even, like high up in the organization. We are in I think a time in the flow of the election where the plan has already been made, and now it's a question of execution. So the game plans will be VGG and DGG probably being the workhorses of the canvassing events. It will be holding a half dozen events between now and the election. It will be trying to drag in these people with and without drama. And probably the thing that I'm sure they're already doing, but maybe they could modify. I'm sure they already have a wing of PV that's reaching out to local politicians near canvassing events in order to try to bring the online and real world political space to kind of mesh together more. I would wonder if they should expand that operation or just expand their scope to let's also try to get larger non-affiliated creators who we have no network connections with. I think that would be a worthwhile investment that I took away from your summary.
Well, I mean, for PV, but I mean, at this point, the reason why I'm not really talking about it anymore is because, as you say, like, cat's kind of out of the bag. We're already kind of committed to something, and
maybe next election cycle they won't do this. Maybe they'll say it's too much drama.
The PV Chud Logic say something racist, deport the blacks video is already a thing. Like, we're kind of past that point, and I think the problem you're looking at here is
does anybody care?
Well, nobody cares about PV is the thing, but if people did care about PV, and for example,
but does anybody care about the Chud Logic clip? Because the whole thing is we all got to start at 0.
No, but the point is that if PV gets big enough, there will be an incentive to attack it, and anything stupid that has been done now will be used. Is the point to be made? I think.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem. Okay. Here's the problem. The organization, as you say, is ambitious, but you guys have the mindset of losers on YouTube who have no stake whatsoever in their image. The problem is if you start getting to that point where you're actually reaching out to people who are more respectable and bigger even than Vosh or Destiny, and those exist, by the way, then that stuff being there, people are going to be like, I like the idea of canvassing, but I don't know if I want to, throw my name in and attach it to this organization that has like this baggage with it. I'm gonna plug somebody else because there are other organizations too. That's sort of antithetical to the success of your movement. You actually need to care about your image. It's also going to potentially hurt the reputations of the people who have ambitions in politics beyond PV later on. Like we started this conversation talking about Briannabu canvassing for Trent Lott. Like this stuff does carry, and that's before like Twitter was a thing.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. If there's anything that I learned from Twitch and YouTube poll, it's like giga chat it and then shut the fuck up for 2 weeks and then people move on to the next thing. And honestly, I think that as a political strategy is going to be the same thing moving forward. I'm not going to tell you that these problems don't exist. I'm just saying that somebody's got to get in there and make moves. And the thing that I respect about PV is I think you can moral frog about all these concerns all day. But the truth is that PV is the people who are actually getting in and getting dirty and doing work.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, though. Like you say that, but then there's a reason why Brandon was no longer affiliated with the organization. And yet everybody who's now affiliated with it has been, for the most part, I think with few exceptions, picked by her. So if that's the case, clearly that's not really what's going on here, because it seems like you guys are cognizant that you are capable of damaging your image, and indeed a lot of you guys have. I think the presence of a lot of you, including present company, not taking a jab at you, just as a blunt fact, I don't know. Like you can
Isn't that the risk you run by participating in this kind of space in the first place?
These are particular risks that you specifically avoid when you're operating in this kind of space if you have serious intentions to actually do real-world political activism, because you're hurting your capacity to interface with the public later. What do you mean who else is doing this?
Who else is doing this?
With streamers?
Yeah.
Virtually nobody that I'm aware of, so it's a lost opportunity. Like you guys had like a really cool and really unique market to kind of pull in, right? Because you had these people who were like big streamers interfacing with PV, and it was great. Vosh was interfacing with PV and plugging it. Destiny was. What you shouldn't have done was made them attached to it. Because now, because by dint of making them attached to you, you are attached to them.
Sure. So okay. So I'm with you in a certain respect. I think that we all carry reputational risks. I think through close affiliation and association, you carry reputational risks. However, I would also say that carrying shared risk can also build affinity in community. And not only that,
okay, but you don't. But Destiny does not carry shared risk with PV. Vosh does not carry shared risk with PV. The only thing they risk is the same thing they've always risked. The only one who's actually staking anything out at all is PV. PV is the only one who loses.
But if PV, so here's the thing. So I'm not them, right? Like I don't speak for the organization, but as somebody who has a budding side hustle, I can speak for myself. No risk, no reward. You know, and on top of that, you can make the perfect plan. Execute. And by the way, hold on. Yeah, hold on. Let me. Okay. I've listened to you a lot. I would like you to listen.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So you can make you can create the perfect plan to be the perfect creator, to do this perfect project, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And as a matter of fact, because I was doing other things with my life at the time, I spent a decade daydreaming about what I was going to do when I finally had the ability to speak with my own voice. But the truth is that until you start doing it, you're not going to figure out the risks and rewards, and you're also not going to figure out how to do it. So my argument would be that I would so much rather work with somebody who's willing to get in there and get messy than somebody who's going to create the perfect plan from the sidelines. That's part of the reason why I was kind of jabbing at Mr. Car Salesman earlier, because while some of his criticisms could be well-founded, I would be curious if he had ever done anything in his entire fucking life that was politically related.
So I have two responses to that. The first one is I think a lot of this is kind of common sense, the kind of thing that if you don't get this in adulthood, your politics is probably not for you. Josiah understands the importance of presentation before he got involved with PV, before he actually went out and did IRL politics. I think most people who have most people who have worked a normal day job and have had to interface with normal people in a professional environment sort of know like what the limits are and how to kind of comport yourself. I think people like Vosh and Destiny make money off of being outrageous and getting people hating them and stuff like that. These are precisely the kinds of people you don't want being the face of your organization. Perfectly fine to profit from them and to try to get like them to, you know, funnel people towards you. But I think having them be the face of your organization, like you will be absorbed by their reputations and not vice versa. You can't keep yourself clean from that. But more to the point, the entire purpose of paying these people to get involved is precisely so that you can leverage their large audiences that PV does not have the capacity to generate by itself to bring in people to do canvassing. And so I have to ask, since you mentioned your side hustle and since it's so much bigger and it's more successful than your political content, Connor, have you leveraged any of that to promote progressive victory? Like, have you used your Warhammer thing to promote progressive victory at all?
I'll be honest, no.
Why?
Why
not?
No, I think it's mostly because I didn't think
40K fans are all Nazis.
Yeah, that's another reason. Okay, let me give you the real answer. The niche that I operate in is I take content that is already popular, I break it down, and then I basically give you the lore. If you're a veteran, you might learn something new. If you're a new person, this is the context information that you need in order to understand what you're seeing on screen, right? And so in a lot of ways, I have not built, I think part of my failure, if you want to call it that, as a streamer or a streamer personality, is because my most popular content is actually not me. It's the content. I am a vehicle through which to consume it better. And so as a result, I don't have like a huge cult of personality around the 40K channel. It's just successful because I make it more palatable for people. So the star of the 40K content is 40K. It's not me.
Okay, so why wouldn't you use nonetheless that larger platform to promote progressive victory?
I think I should. I think you're right that I should, and I will.
So are you going to do that tonight?
I will talk to PV about how.
What's there to think about? What's there to think about, Connor? What are you worried about?
What's there to think about?
Are you perhaps, if I may speculate, are you perhaps concerned that your audience may take a dim view of you or have a negative reaction to you promoting a specifically progressive political organization that might, for example, hurt your bottom line and hurt your audience, which is legitimate, by the way? Is that possibly a concern?
It's not because it's the specific organization.
But is it because it's progressive?
And it's not because of the drama. Yeah.
But is it because it's progressive?
Yeah, it's because.
Okay, but haven't you just acknowledged my point though, which is
how many videos on the female custodes have you got, Connor?
Yeah, I have 0,
right
and I plan on having 0.
Okay,
I literally had a debate on Wick TV the other week in which I said I would keep my Space Marines all male even if they add female.
That's not very progressive of you, Connor.
It's not. Sorry, Sunday, we're interrupting the serious thought.
No. So isn't that though like a tacit acknowledgement of my point?
Of course, reputational damage is absolutely a thing.
Yeah,
but also no risk, no reward. And so I have to.
Well, hang on. We'll slow down. No risk, no reward. First of all, that doesn't mean anything. But secondly, let's assume that's true. You wouldn't.
You wouldn't mean something, but
it doesn't though, right? It's a.
Why doesn't it? I'm going to push you on this. Why does no risk, no reward not mean anything?
Well, because sometimes the prudent decision is to not take unnecessary risks, and the reward is you don't lose things that you need for future engagements.
Okay. Did you use an operative word that modified the words that I used? I think the word was unnecessary, but please continue.
Well, that's kind of important though, because you're using this to justify what I consider to be an unnecessary risk.
Okay,
I think that it's completely
risks.
What about necessary? Well, they're necessary. There's no debate about them. Is it necessary for you to associate progressive victory with?
Does the platitude or cliche of no risk, no reward mean something? And even if you say no, I don't care. We can move on to the broader topic.
Well, it's
if you are unwilling to take necessary or unnecessary risks, will you obtain a reward?
If you're unwilling to take unnecessary risks, I don't know.
Okay,
that's why they're risks.
Let's move on. Let's move on to your broader point.
Well, I think we've kind of established the broader point, which is, like you being firmly, you would endanger your platform by being openly associated with PV. Well, similarly, if PV, for example, has the reputation of being pro-Israel over pro-Palestine, or of like having a leadership that has like this really dim view of people who are not like on a strict, like binaristic gender identity or whatever, well, then that's going to affect the reputations and the audiences of people who are themselves trying to promote PV to their audiences and are associating with them, right? So like this makes, for example, PV hostile to Vosh's audience.
Hasn't made. I think that's part of the reason why PV as an organization, if you talk about, so if you're talking about Kyla and Pixie, who, and I think Aaron does some back end work too. Those are the 3 people who, to my knowledge, have done administrative work for PV, right?
Sure.
And so they might have public facing perspectives on political issues that are unpalatable to a lot of people and therefore could potentially be damaging to PV. But I think when it comes to Sam and
well, answer me this very quickly. Was Kyla paid by PV to attend the whatever podcast?
What month would that have been in?
Ever at all?
I don't know. She, since Cincinnati, she has worked for PV.
Pixie. Has Pixie ever done so?
Okay. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe, so let's say believe, so subject to change. I believe that Aaron and Pixie went onto the whatever podcast and were assisted by PV in getting there. I don't know if they were paid. I don't know if they were contractors at the time. I don't know.
That's fair. And you're in the dark about whether Kyla was, right?
Yes, I do not know. The only time that I don't even think I knew that Kyla was, I thought Kyla was DGG. And then in Cincinnati, that's where she was like I'm the boss. I'm running stuff. I'm doing X, Y, Z, ABC. I need you to do this. I need you to do that.
Well, I mean, those aren't mutually exclusive, right? Like you can be DGG,
of course,
because DGG is not like an affiliation, really. But like the point though is like, and did PV or was any of this promoted or recorded on PV's official channels?
Okay, so the main thing that we work with is something called PV Spotlight, and PV Spotlight. Anybody who works with PV.
Yeah, I get
you. They have given permission for it to be clipped up and used as
no. I understand that. The point is not that I'm worried about where the funds are going. The point is that if PV is paying people to represent it, and they are representing it, and then they are posting the clips to their channels or whatever, then they are going to do that. They are going to represent it to other people who are considering whether or not to be involved with PV. And they're going to represent it to people who are considering whether or not to continue following a streamer who's affiliated with PV, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So there you go. Like the exact same thing that would give you pause about promoting it to your audience. Shuffle the variables a little bit. That's the exact same dynamic for everybody else. And the reason why you're hesitant is because you recognize a real danger there. And that's not risk. That's not like no risk, no reward. That's like
so let me tell you the risk. Okay. The risk from my perspective. So I already told you, I feel like I've been fairly candid with the fact that I do not view myself as the content on my most popular channel. Warhammer is the content. I am a vehicle, right? So what would suck? Let's say that I go to PV, I talk to them and I'm like, hey, you know, Sunday kind of brought up a critique that I actually agree with, where I've been hesitant to share any political stuff on my 40K channel because it's not related. But the truth is that's my largest reach. And I think that there are enough people there that even if I piss off a few dozen people, I lose some subs, whatever, there's probably a half dozen to a few dozen people who would actually share their perspective with me. And as a result, be willing to either help out in some way or show up to a canvassing event. Are you okay with me sharing it? Because part of the reason is, like you said, reputational damage. I've said some edgy shit. I'm definitely way more centrist than I am progressive.
Yeah, but the thing about promoting it is that this is not something that then falls onto PV's shoulders. So, for example, PV paying you and affiliating with you, that's an optical burden that PV bears. You, as an independent promoting PV, doesn't fall on them. Fuck, you could go way further afield than that. Like, Big Papa Fascists could promote them, and PV wouldn't bear any consequences for that, right?
Yeah, I think the
not going to happen.
That's a really funny point, though. Yeah, so they don't share that much reputational risk with me. I share more reputational risk with them. Well, then, to be honest,
but this is why it comes to,
I just might as well do it.
But this is why it comes to bear, though, because if you're dealing with people who are already progressive, so their audiences, unlike yours, would already swing to voting Democrat if they're voting at all. Then
I think I'm probably accessing a different audience. Actually,
you would be as a matter of fact. So there'd actually be an argument in your favor there, at least in terms of like getting you to promote them. But if you're talking about audiences that are already inclined to vote in that direction already, or to canvass in that direction, and then all of a sudden you introduce the baggage of particular streamers who take these positions that are completely noxious to these other groups, then what you've actually done is you've taken a pool of potential canvassers and whatnot, who would have already volunteered if you'd asked them through those streamers, and you've diminished that total number because you've now made a whole bunch of them uncomfortable with working with PV in particular because of those associations. If those associations weren't there, you might actually draw a significantly larger number. Now, there's no way to test any of this. We don't know what the numbers would be. We can only do it. This is like
yeah,
you know, like,
No, I'm with you. And by the way, here's the thing. Like, so I don't want to act like I've never done this before either. So back when Hurricane Ian happened, of all things, I actually promoted it on Twitter a little bit, and I got a few people from.
Are we talking about a hurricane, or are we talking about the tax folders?
The hurricane. So during the hurricane, or immediately after the hurricane, Central Florida was actually wiped out. That's where I was. I did a fundraiser on my channel. I got $2,500. I got a couple of local people. I got a half dozen local people. I also had some inroads with some local volunteer organizations, and we got like a dozen people to go cut up trees and pump out houses and dry out houses and all that kind of stuff in the wake of the hurricane. So I've experienced with this before. And what I would say is that like you would be surprised about the amount of people who are willing to look past the political differences as long as they're working towards a shared goal. And so for me, if PV is good with me doing it, I'm going to do it. So because the shared goal for me is not progressive victory across the board. I'm not a progressive. I disagree with half this shit. But I do think that a general election Biden win is preferable to a general election Trump win in many ways.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is I think you swaying a portion of your audience, whatever portion, even if it costs you audience to do so, to helping like get a Democrat win. I think that's a net positive by itself. However, if we're talking about like other people whose audiences were already going to do so, then you're not adding by affiliating people who have views that would cause like other sections of that audience, other audiences to not want to get involved. That's a negative. So like in your case, it makes sense. I still think, by the way, like for the same reason, I think the association with you as a person is a mistake because that has the same effect.
Yeah. So actually, that's something that I wanted to address. I'm happy you brought that up again. So
can you hold that thought? I desperately need water.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm gonna write that down. So how you doing, Kuihman?
Doing great. Sorry, I was just eating.
Excellent. No, it's all good.
So you've not seen Hunter Avalone's rap career, no?
I watched Hunter Avalone's rap career not closely through you and Chud Logic, and I had a great time. So you know, I'm not a fan
after that, sadly. He had them pretty consistently up until then. Now it's been a month. So
yeah, I'm not a fan of rap songs about ADD and mixed with like techno shit and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? Chud said something that I agree with. You can make fun of Hunter all you want. It does take a certain amount of balls to take your creativity and put it out there for the world to like or dislike. And so I respect that.
Certainly if you're Hunter.
Y'all are so fucking mean. Anyways, so you mentioned something that I actually wanted to address, and I'm happy you brought it up. You said that PV is taking a reputational risk by associating with me. I agree. So far, my role has been as I think like some people call it like the 13th man or whatever. It's like the person who's there to challenge the decisions of like the squad leader in the squad in order to make sure that what they're doing is in line with a contradictory perspective. That's kind of been my role, is like, hey, this is what you're going to get as counter arguments. This is what you're going to get as an alternative perspective. These are the rebuttals that you can expect, et cetera, et cetera. That's kind of what I've done so far. And then also I would say that the value that I've added has been like, I'm 6'4", 230 pounds. I can lift things. I can move things. I'm former military. So if somebody tells me to do something, I'm going to say how high. You know, I'm just kind of like a gopher guy. So during Cincinnati,
you can remove Wick immediately if he makes anybody uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but if I may though, like just based on your enthusiastic involvement in this conversation, this is clearly something you'd be willing to do for free. Why does PV need to officially associate with you to get that benefit? Right wingers love to talk about this stuff.
They didn't
exactly.
I made a.
And by the way, like I've spoken to Erin, like she said that you're one of the few people who actually has good advice. So I mean, credit to you. But
I did when I was first offered the position, my counter offer was lower than their initial offer.
Yeah, she said that was funny.
Yeah. So, what was? I'll tell you the pitch. Maybe this will make it a little bit more transparent for the audience. So Brianna comes to me and she says, hey, we're doing this PV thing. We're kind of getting into the streamer world. We're thinking about combining online politics and real life politics. We want to have an electoral effect. Maybe we could do some other crazier stuff. We need a Republican voice. We need somebody who, for purposes, because there's actually like some nonprofit that was helping out. You have to have a certain amount of centrist or right-wing people in the organization in order to qualify for this specific grant. I don't know if this specific grant is a large part of their organization anymore. The way that I perceived it was that it was like a temporary, like a couple of month kind of thing. So she was like, hey, you want to come on board? And I was like, fuck yeah, I love politics. Let's do it. They made me an offer. I was like, I would do it for a third of that, just for the shits and giggles. And she basically said, hey, what would happen if PV did not get this grant and do this organization and try to do online political shit? Is some dickhead from an Ivy League school would get the same grant. They would look up political TikTokers and they would look up political YouTubers, they would create an Excel spreadsheet. They would take 90 days to develop the Excel spreadsheet. Then they would send it to the political organization and they would charge them the same amount of money. So as a result, we are going to use this money in a way more creative, efficacious, and interesting way than that Harvard, graduate dickhead. So as a result, don't feel bad about taking the money. And I haven't felt bad since that conversation.
Would you call yourself a diversity hire then? Is that how you would
describe? Yes, I am literally an ideological diversity hire.
Okay, I just don't. I mean, like I'm familiar with how college activism work, and that's probably correct. But I don't think there's any particular reason to assume why you wouldn't, for example, be able to find people who don't have these. Like you got there are tons of people who don't have reputations that would compromise the organization, who would be willing to, for a paycheck, perform these administrative tasks. And we already know for a fact, based on Vosh's association, that there are streamers who are perfectly willing to engage with the organization without being official employees or hires or contracting with it. Like there's just no reason for this.
Sure. So my recommendation is email Sam. I'm sure his email or phone number is listed on the website, and you can email him and you say, listen, you don't know me, but my name is President Sunday. I think you could run this organization way better. This is exactly what I would do. I would fire everybody in the streamer thing except for Destiny. I would maybe keep these 3 people for administrative roles.
Except for Destiny. God, you should never have hired. That's crazy. No, but in all seriousness,
I would diversify all the money into this recruitment pool.
Hear me out, though.
And email me for consultation if you think my advice is of value, and maybe you could get me fired. And and I would take my hat off to you. I'd be like, hey,
no, I think it's tainted.
Sunday did it.
No, I think it's tainted already. Like it's done. Like, look. As far as like the Destiny thing is concerned, like we were talking about the Chud Logic Deport the Blacks comment.
Well, and I don't think Destiny is like hired by them to be clear. I'm just saying like the affiliation.
Yeah, sure.
Like you would focus on the affiliation.
Yeah, but I wouldn't affiliate with any of these people. Fuck, if you got Hassan involved, I wouldn't affiliate with him. And is he significantly bigger than Destiny anymore? I don't think he pulls that much bigger an audience. It's big.
Yeah, he dropped down to like 14K or something on Twitch. I don't know if he's
Destiny now. Like Destiny's hovering around 10K.
Destiny's at 10. Which is impressive.
It's closing.
Yeah,
the world's getting a little worse day by day.
I disagree, but continue.
You would though. I don't think any of these people are worth making like these firm associations, because like you tied the destiny of this organization to people like Destiny and Vosh, and these people are deeply unstable. They have a tremendous amount of historical baggage. They're incredibly contentious and abrasive, to say the least. These are not unifying figures. And the only
isn't that how you get attention?
Sorry?
Isn't that how you get attention?
Well, there is such a thing as negative attention if it causes a schism in a group that was otherwise unified in purpose, right?
Can I? Yeah, I agree with you, but can I present to you a theory of mine that I'd be curious if you agree with?
Sure.
So I think that Destiny, when he first started his incest argumentation, I don't think he was that passionate about fucking one of his family members. I think that what he was doing was he was engaging in a provocative hypothetical in order to attract as many people as possible, in order to create a spicy conversation that would get him as many viewers as possible.
Yeah.
That's my theory on it. Do you just? I have a second part, but do you disagree with that part of the theory?
Do you mind if I answer that part quickly?
Sure.
In a way
please.
that doesn't. Yeah, I mean, obviously this is what Destiny is doing, but here's the difference. PV isn't just trying to get attention. PV is trying to get people motivated to go at great inconvenience and personal expense to travel some distance to go door to door knocking for a political cause. That's a world of difference from getting someone to tune in to watch a spectacle on the internet. I will watch Mr. Girl on YouTube. I'm not going to get within sniffing distance of him. Right?
Okay.
Very different dynamic.
Then even if you already see where I'm going, I'm going to present the second part, even though you probably already agree with it. And you've already kind of moved away from my line of argumentation, but I'm just going to finish it. Vosh, similarly, I would argue that his consumption habits notwithstanding, part of the reason why he probably went with the CP argument is because he was looking for a similar, maybe even more controversial take,
probably,
that he could bring people in and try to beat them on a logical basis while still having like a spicy debate structure.
You could absolutely say that about some of those, yeah.
Okay. So I think I have been tempted in the past. When you see me move my lips, those are the thoughts that are in my brain. I am not trying to manipulate anyone with something that is not actually happening inside my skull. So I have been tempted to.
That was a very weird sentence. Continue, sorry.
Yes. I have been tempted to, though, in the past, to be like, well, those motherfuckers got big off of some dumbass fucking controversy that they spiced up into like some crazy logical argument. Should I bother coming up with some like ridiculous, spicy hypothetical that logically follows something else in order to gain negative attention? And my answer was no, because I don't operate that way. But at the same time, like, for me, if you're talking about operating in life, and the truth is that on the ground operations, now I could be talking out my ass right now. As a matter of fact, I am. As far as I understand it, on the ground operations is largely a boomer thing and kind of a Gen X thing. And when you're talking about millennials and Zoomers, you are not seeing on the ground door knocking operations because nobody's fucking interested in it. Who wants to get up on a fucking Saturday in order to do that kind of shit, right? So the truth is that I don't think there is any competition for ground shit. I think this is it.
Well, I don't necessarily disagree with you in this context, because as we've already agreed, I don't think there's really anybody else who's doing like the streamer canvassing thing. But given that
I don't even know if there's other canvassing operations that are large.
Well, fair enough. But we're talking about what's efficacious versus what's less efficacious than what you could do. So if, as a consequence of these particular associations, the people who would go, some of them are being pared away because, like, that number is being pared down rather, because PV now seems to be represented by people on the face of it that are taking these what they consider to be really toxic positions, or they're taking these immoral positions, or it's so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. All you've accomplished by the association is cutting down the maximum number of people, whoever they are, who would show up to do canvassing. And just getting that negative attention doesn't do what you needed to do in that case, because you're not trying to get an audience. You're trying to get people who are willing to actually like spend a decent amount of time and money, even if you're paying their way, time and money. These people aren't working while they're doing this, to go door to door to like canvass with this organization for this particular political party. If you are spooking people from either endorsing the Democrat Party because they're spooked by the positions that are sort of trickling down to the leadership of PV, or if you're making it so that they just find it distasteful to associate with it, you've hurt the organization, like you've hurt yourself. What works for Vosh and Destiny doesn't work for PV. PV is a different kind of entity. It's not playing the same game. You're not trying to get views. You're trying to get volunteers. I have to disappear now, actually. I just realized the time. We've been here for like 2 hours.
Okay.
But Connor, it's been a fun conversation, oddly. I don't know why we're having it exactly, but I enjoyed it. Kuihman?
Okay. Excellent. If I can pick your brain another time, let me know. It was fun on my end as well.
I will do that. Cheerio.
Bye.
Thanks for coming. Well.
All right, Kuihman. I got you. It might not have been the spiciest content in the world, but I did get you some content. So.
Oh yeah, it was great. I managed to. I got to sit there and do nothing for 2 hours, so that's great.
All right. Well, open your hearts, open your wallets.
True. Open your wallets. Open your hearts.
He's bringing you content. No one else is awake right now. They're not. They're not offering you the. They're not offering you anything. Kuihman is here, taking the grenades for you people.
True. Although I worry my audience will be less likely to do it if you ask.
Oh shit! Okay, don't donate to Kuihman. Like, he's a fucking asshole and a fucking piece of shit. He's a fucking miserable, and he should definitely keep smoking so he dies. He should definitely keep smoking so he dies earlier.
Smoking is cool.
The opposite, but smoking is cool. It can get you some babes. So, anyways, is there anything that you want to address before I leave?
No, I don't think I really had anything even going in. So I was just here for the content.
Okay, beautiful. Then I do enjoy it. I appreciate your contribution to the schizophrenic drama space, and I look forward to the next time that we can meet.
Yep. All right. I'll catch you later. Thanks for coming.
Bye.
Wow. Guys, we got the content. Wasn't that epic? Free content, literally free content. Literally free content. So easy.